You have to make the decision. Am I fully going to focus and do this one sole thing? Or am I just going to keep jumping around until I feel good about what I'm doing long enough to keep doing it? Can't roll like that.
I'm super excited to be your educator. My name is Diana Gladney.
I teach by the learn and do philosophy. So whatever it is that you just learned, go and execute on it.
More relevant content is usually the answer to any issues creators today are facing.
When you're thinking about creating content, either you're going to create excuses or you're going to execute.
Video brings your vision to life.
What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome back to the Video Simplified podcast with me, your hostess, the mostess, Diana Gladney. I am super pumped, pleased, and excited to be back upon you, or with you again. Upon you sounds weird, so just take that bit out. Maybe we keep it in. Either way, I am plumb pleased to be back on the microphone, back communicating with you after taking a bit of a hiatus and a break since our last episode up until this one. If you're listening all the way through or later on, then it won't matter. However, I've had a couple back-to-back large speaking engagement. I spoke at a high-level mastermind, and then before that, I spoke at Social Media Marketing World again. Very honored to be invited back there again for another year. Also had some great news with my health as well. I don't know if you all know this, but as I've shared, whether you're new here or not, that I have stage 4 endometriosis. And that's something that I've battled for quite a long time. And finally got some relief, changing my diet, and things are going a lot better for me physically, which means for you, I'll be able to not just come back from after these work weeks and just like take this break time and really get a lot of rest. But what that means for you is that I'll be producing even more content than I was before, which is very, very exciting. Which brings me to our topic for today. Enough of all of that stuff. If you are thinking about AI, if you're not using it, if you've been hesitant around it, or if you jumped right in with both feet forward, you need to be aware that the landscape of video is changing, and whether you're ready for it or not, AI is going to be a part of your business, whether you choose for it to be or whether it interrupts your business. It will be an integral part of how you operate, how you proceed, how your customers perceive your business and your brand. And if you don't leverage it so that you can get better organized, have better systems, eventually be able to introduce new products or refine some of those that you already have, you have the potential to lose your customers and the market share that you may have been gaining in your particular niche or line of work that you're doing, if you're not going to be doing some of the things that we talk about in this episode, as well as some of the others to come. So I want to dive right into it. Now, when we think about the landscape of how stuff is changing, most of the time, I'm always looking at systems and efficiency. That's how my brain operates, is how I work. It's systems and efficiencies. What are some of the systems that we need that can help us to be more consistent, that can help us to produce not just for ourselves, but on a scale we can start to introduce and bring people into our business and our brand, or you start attracting the right people to your business and your brand to help you see your vision and move it forward. How do you do that? It's the systems that serve you. Something that I've said a lot, which is simple serves. If we have a simple system, then that allows us to serve at scale and not have to worry about some of the minutia, the small things that kind of get in the way over time with some of the stuff that we're doing. And I did get a question on the channel that I want to address in just a second here, because it talked about like, how do you go through some of these systems and workflow? What do you do, especially when we're talking about AI now being a part of the conversation? I was discussing this personally in my life, having a conversation with some family. And the thing is that whether you want to be online or not is no longer your choice. Whether you want to use AI tools, or maybe I've had this when I was speaking at Social Media Marketing World, and you do the Q&A afterwards and you're meeting with people. The one common thing that I was noticing, there's a lot of overwhelm when it comes to that, which lets me know that there are too many decisions, too many puzzle pieces sitting and surrounding you, to the point to where you start to question and you start to wonder, what do I do? Which of these do I choose? Which one is better than the other? How do I know if this one is going to really serve us or not? And it's your systems that can make that determination for you if you have them in place that allow you to eventually be able to scale or not. And when we talk about some of the systems, I'm going to be pulling specifically today from my best-selling book, The One Right Video. If you don't have a copy of that, you go to onerightvideo.com/Amazon, or hold your phone up to the QR code on the screen, and that'll take you right over to the page where you can pick this up. The audiobook, thankfully this year, it will be produced. I'm really looking forward to that. So if audiobooks is your jam, then you'll love it. But you can also listen to, I think it was chapter 3 that I did read, and I put that on the podcast episode when we were initially launching the book last year. And you can get a chance to listen to it, which a lot of people love that episode. So I'll link that in the show notes down below. So here's the thing. If you want to really in English, if you really want to future-proof your workflow, you have to have a workflow that's actually working. Okay. It can't flow properly if the work is muddled, stuff is all over the place. I hate for things to be all over the place. I hate for things to be not organized and systematized, because if there's a way to do it wrong, there's obviously a way to do it right. And if there's a way to do it messy, it's obviously a way to do it well. And so I want you to start focusing on the systems and not so much the tools. I am very guilty, 100% times 2. Very guilty of discussing the tech, talking about the cameras over on my main channel, which is just at Diana Gladney. And we covered the more technical aspects of the Video Simplified brand, which is all about helping you use video to bring your vision to life. That's the whole point. How can we get past all the tech stuff and start getting down to the meat and potatoes of why we bought all this stuff to begin with? So on that channel, I cover all of those things. On this channel, we start to dive into stuff like this, more strategy, business related, things like that, because there's space and time for it. And the audience tends to prefer, you guys seems to like it. So you need to focus more on the systems and the tools. That's the first point. If you're not, and you get more tool oriented, then you don't pay attention to the main thing of how am I doing what I'm doing. This is where a lot of confusion, frustration, and annoyance comes from, where you get annoyed with creating. You get annoyed with the idea of trying to make a video, or possibly making a video, or executing a new idea, because there's no systems or workflow back of it. You cannot have a workflow unless the existing system is already flowing in some way. Because if you have something to work with, even if it's very, very basic, if we have something to work with, then we can refine it. But we can't refine what doesn't exist. And so if you don't have something that exists, like I said, we're going to talk about that coming through the book. And then the second point is that you need to embrace scalability. The main point of why you need to have some systems so you can start future-proofing your business and your content creation workflows so you can scale. It doesn't mean that you want a 50-person plus business. It doesn't mean that you want a 15 or 20 plus person business. But what about like 1 or 2, 3 or 4? Could that help give you back some of the time that maybe you're investing into things in areas that you don't love? You're doing things in your business, in your content creation workflow that you just don't love. Personally, I hate making thumbnails, always have. It is not my jam. I hired somebody to be able to do that for me because I track my time. Literally, beginning of this episode, I'm talking to my video editors. I'm recording and stuff like that, just little notes or what have you. And one of the things like, oh, shoot, I needed to start my time. And I just use Toggle Track. I've talked about that before. So that as the entrepreneur, as the head of the company, as the visionary, I'm paying attention to what I'm doing and I'm paying attention to where my time is going. So pro tip there, if you're not paying attention to where your time is already going, how can you evaluate it? Again, we can't refine what doesn't exist. So even if it's quote unquote a bad system, let's at least get it documented so we know where the time drains are. And I mean, literally every 5, 10, 15 minutes, except, like restroom, eating or whatever. Those are the notable gaps. And then like sleeping or whatever, I don't time that stuff. What am I doing? And then pro tip on top of the pro tip, what I do, again, just so we can constantly evaluating our systems to see where we can refine to make improvements. So again, so we can scale, pass this off to somebody else. Side note, I made the course, which is not going to be available for purchase. Nothing's going to be available for purchase right now. We're getting ready to migrate the website. So links may be a little tricky in the next day or so, or whenever you're listening to this at launch. So just FYI. But when I made the course Building a Team, the whole point of building a team is so that you could have systems as a creator to pass to somebody else, so that when they get to work for you, they don't hate working for you because they're just like sitting on their hands all day because it's like, you don't know what you're doing. You mad at me because you don't like what I did, but you don't have a system for what you did or what I should do. And you didn't tell me that you wanted it this way. So I was going off my best guess. And then it's other issues, structural issues, leadership issues, visionary issues. That stuff impacts the business too. And so now that person quits, or you get mad and you fire them, and now you got to reassume all these responsibilities. I have so many clients that deal with that, and they struggle with hiring people and keeping people, or honestly, just knowing if somebody's honestly not a great fit. The systems will expose you. It'll expose you to yourself, and it'll expose you to your team, and your team as they're working with you in the company to build this vision, whatever your vision is for your brand. It can expose, like, I could be doing this better. I could do this better. I could refine this better. Or what if we did this and blah, 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 and bringing you ideas. If that's not happening, something's off. And it's usually based in the system. So what I do is, like, when I'm doing the toggle track, I'm tracking my time. And like I said, that pro tip on top of the pro tip is, what category of work is this in that's not my zone of genius? Meaning, this is something that somebody else could do that, even though I may be good at it, quote unquote, I don't want to keep doing it. I could give this off to somebody and they can do it 10 times better. Or it is 10 times better simply because I didn't have to do it. And if you haven't read the book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, I highly encourage you to do that, because he talks about specifically the difference between your zone of genius and your zone of excellence. And a lot of creators, when they're trying to get to a point that they're developing their stuff, they operate 100% out of their zone of excellence and scared to transition into their zone of genius. Your zone of genius is some of the things that only you can do, the only things that you were created to do, the only things that you can do. The reason why people come to you specifically in your business brand, people want to hire you, want to work with you. Zone of genius work, stuff that is like, not that you're just in your bag and you can do it, but you love to do it. You thrive when you do it. Versus you got this other stuff on here, you're good at it, you're efficient at it. Maybe you hit some numbers, scales, and achievements or whatever in it, but it's not your thing that you want to do 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean? That's zone of excellence. So for me, zone of genius, stuff that I'm doing now: speaking, teaching, writing books, books plural, because I definitely have 2 other books that I had started writing concepts for. Trying to see which one I want to release after this book. And so there's things that's like within your zone of genius, only you can do, only you're supposed to do it, only you created to do. If you can't figure out where you're wasting your time at, you won't know how to offload that or make even what you have to do right now, if it's just you running a solopreneur, and be more efficient. Okay. So quick recap, because I know I've covered a couple points here. Number 1, focus on systems, not tools. Number 2, embrace scalability. You need to be starting to think ahead, and you want to know if your workflow is something that is contributing to help towards growing, or is it something that's eating away at your time, or it just is becoming like a big negative. So you want to be able to justify, like, what are we doing, and objectively look at stuff. A lot of times, because it's us being the creator, we're doing, it's our thing, it's our baby, it's whatever, it's our joy. We can't see objectively. When you track your time to see exactly what you're doing, you have an objective view to say, dag, I wasted a lot of time doing X, or A, B, C, whatever, fill in the letter. Now, hold up. I know you are enjoying this week's episode, and we are diving deep into some really good stuff. However, it's time that we dive into this week's Gear Fix. This week's Gear Fix is brought to you by Crisp.ai. We are talking about a lot of AI tools in this particular episode, and Crisp AI has been my best friend over the last several months, from spending I won't say spending, honestly, investing in things like this wonderful, my favorite now microphone, the Shure SM7 Beast a couple years ago, along with the Rodecaster Pro 1. It does have some noise canceling type stuff built into it, technology. It's amazing. I have the Rodecaster Pro 2. That's amazing. But just wanting to recover and recapture more of my desk size, we went down to the Vocaster 2, and that's been a dream. But it doesn't have the background noise removal in what we're doing. And we still had to add stuff in editing when we were using Final Cut Pro and their voice isolation tool. And we couldn't always get everything, especially like the planes and jets flying over. But with Crisp AI, it's made it possible so that we don't have to use any of that stuff. I can use the Vocaster. I've done this even specifically out of town when we had a really, really, really loud furnace and it just was messing up for the event. And I was thinking, I'm like, I think Crisp AI can help deal with that. And it did. So not only does it help with the home office and, you know, having the air conditioner or the heat on, you may have a camera fan now on the back of your camera or what have you. You may have kids in the other room, whatever it is you may have. Like they were cutting grass earlier. You couldn't hear a thing. I've tested it, tried it. Space heaters, it doesn't matter. Crisp AI helps you to continue to sound crisp, removes all the background noise. And yes, it does use AI. And it has been a dream, absolute dream working with the service. I know I'm gushing over it, but I'm giving praise where praise is due. Because this is not just like another AI quote unquote audio tool. You should know this is one I think every creator needs in their arsenal. That's why I qualified for this week's Gear Fix. So if you want to check it out, go ahead and go to Diana.link/crisp, and it is spelled KRISP for the name is just Crisp. So Diana.link/Crips. Diana.link/Crisp, KRISP. I guess it could be Crips if you just switch some letters around, but neither here nor there. Check it out. Even if you have a relatively quiet environment, just imagine how much better it could be a listening experience for your audience, that no matter what happens, you don't have to spend so much time, quote unquote, cleaning it up in post. So check it out, Diana.link/Crisp. But let's jump back into this week's episode because it is some gems in that thing. So the next thing is stay agile and experiment, which means be flexible. Try different things, but don't make huge leaps. Make small micro changes. You consistently make small micro changes and adjustments. At the end of the year, you'll be someplace completely different than where you were originally set. It's the same thing that they talk about in like boating or what have you. Like I can't think of the exact phrasing, but it's in regards to drifting. So I'll say the drift factor, for lack of a better phrase. You start here. You're supposed to go in a straight line to point A to B. However, somewhere in your journey, you make a small alteration and you just turn just slightly. Now you're on a whole different trajectory. Your plan and where you're going to end up at is someplace totally different. So you want to be in a position where, again, you stay agile or flexible and you experiment, but small changes, because it can, at the end of things, like I was just saying, like the drift factor, a small tweak over time consistently done can produce big results. A lot of creators get lost in the sauce because they just jump from one big thing, do that for 30 to 60 days, jump to another big thing, do that for 30 to 60 days, jump, and it's like, ain't nothing working because you're not doing any one thing consistently. You have to make the decision. Am I fully going to focus and do this one sole thing? Or am I just going to keep jumping around until I feel good about what I'm doing long enough to keep doing it? Can't roll like that. So let's talk about getting into some structures. We talked a lot about systems, talked about trajectories, talked about all these different things, talked about tracking your time. Great. Let's get into what the actual folder structure would look like. We got a question. I want to be organized, but I'm not. Could you address organization of files and workflow? I know there are videos out there about this, and yes, I've watched them. I'm completely self-taught, and most of these videos assume a baseline of terminology and understanding I just don't possess. Really appreciate it. And this is coming in from episode 126, the missing element in your 2024 video content strategy. I was talking about native B-roll. So this is a great question. Would love to answer that. And again, I'm coming out of my book, The One Right Video. If you have the print version, it's on page 182. It's in the chapter of The Secret of Hiring a Dope Video Editor. And again, we can't focus on scalability if we don't have our stuff together. We can't hand off trash and expect them to come up with the systems, teach us what to do or how to That's not their job. They came to edit. They came to be your VA. They came to be your thumbnail editor. They came to be your account. They didn't come to take your mess like that. We can't do that. We got to be about business. Okay. So here's the folder structure layout that I gave. And this is something that you can do now, change some things. And once you create a habit for it, then it's like you can teach this to whomever you bring onto your team, and it just becomes an adoption and system in the company. So this is what the folder structure looks like. I'm just going to run through this really quickly. You create one main folder that's called your creator brand assets. This is stuff that has your colors for your brand. If you have any logos, badges, or something like that, you put it there. If there's a certain kind of font, even if it's a Google font that's free, it's available anywhere, or from thefonts.com or what have you. Any of those places you find one, it's like, oh, I like to use such and such. I don't care how basic it is. It's probably even if it's installed on every computer, download that so that no matter who starts with you, no matter who works with you, if everything completely crashed and burned and you had to start over again, you have all of your stuff. So, but you want to create your creator brand assets. The next thing is within this, I number these. So that will be number 0. So it's always at the top. Number 1 would be your name, YouTube videos. Inside this folder is going to be raw files for YouTube videos, YouTube thumbnails. If you're choosing to save your thumbnails, not everyone does, so that's a thing. And the third one is final and approved YouTube videos. And again, this is if you choose to save your content. A lot of times we'll pull from previous videos and stuff like that because it's already done. File size is already manageable. And the quality is always high because we always record in 4K. And so it's like you have your name, YouTube videos, so they know the raw files. When you're uploading stuff, it goes there. Your thumbnails go there. So if you're sharing that on your community tab, sharing it in the email, your team doesn't have to chase you down, or you don't have to rethink this system altogether. And again, your YouTube videos, if you choose to save them. I don't save everything, but I do save quite a bit of the stuff that matters. And we'll get into some other stuff in just a second, but I also will have like a B-roll folder, but you can expand on this. And so like one of the things that we created, pro tip here, was a B-roll folder. Like I talked about in the previous episode, where it's coming from. We're recording all this stuff in 4K. Now we're, in the arenas and playing around with the 422 10 bits and the S-Log 3s and the Cine whatever stuff. Like we're playing around with all these different versions of these high quality video files. I don't want to reshoot everything over again all the time. I just want stuff to look good and work and be, again, systematic. So I'm going a little bit deeper here, but hence the purpose of the podcast episode. So make a raw B-roll folder. The way I do mine is that I number everything, in this one, it's actually alphabetical. So the brand, it could be Shure, it could be Samsung, it could be Sony, it could be all these different ones, whatever the case is. We're naming stuff based on that. There's one in there called Diana Actions. This one is based on me, or it's called Diana Gladney. And that one may be things that I'm doing if I'm recording. So we need an example of me recording, me doing a podcast, me on stage, me holding my book, me doing a bunch of stuff, me interacting with people. So at any time, we can always reference those B-roll clips specifically of me even. And as you're acquiring this stuff, we're filing it away. Start working with a new brand. New brand comes to the scene, like, for example, Logitech or something. We, haven't worked with them previously. Let's say they become a brand partner. Then we now have those assets and we'll save those, or their logos and stuff like that also go in that folder. So again, be thinking in the future to be moving forward. Like this would work if I got a brand deal. They will send you a brand package, pro tip on top of the pro tip on top of the pro tip. They'll send you a brand package to let you know, these are our font colors. Don't stretch it out doing it this way. This is the way we prefer it to be displayed. If you need a dark and a light version, these are the approved versions for what you're using. Don't use anything else. They're very particular on how they want things done. And so moving on in this folder structure layout, number 2 is social media micro content, because we're producing a tremendous amount of content all the time. Then that's something that you want to know. It's like, where's that piece about this? Or remember when I said this? The stuff is already done. I don't want to be going to the platforms, because if you haven't noticed, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, they're having issues. Sometimes they shut down. If only my content is there, it don't work. for me to go get my stuff. So I save my own stuff without the watermarks. So that's on page 182 and 183 of my book, The One Right Video. It talks about structuring and stuff like that. It can go way deeper. Again, this is just dealing with some of the basics. Now, you put all this in perspective, like we talked about with AI and all this stuff. The reason why you need to be even more structured is because it's getting real serious out here. Like, no joke. When we look at what AI is introducing and what it's making possible, every industry is shifting. Every industry is shifting. And it's one of those things where if you are not ready to roll, you're going to get rolled over. I want to share a couple stats that I discovered that was based on a recent report by SEM Rush. They do a lot of SEO stuff, a really cool company. Their report was called Think Big with AI, Transforming Small Business Content Marketing, that dives deep into businesses using AI to create high quality content. If it's not you already, it will be. So just an FYI, you might as well embrace it if you haven't already. And this report said that 65% of businesses are achieving better SEO results thanks to AI. And so when you start thinking about your website, content is way bigger than just YouTube. It's way bigger than just Instagram. It's way bigger than just wherever it is that you choose and want to post your content. And if you're not thinking beyond the platform, I would venture to tell you, you're not thinking big enough. You're not dreaming big enough. And you need to change that. The second statistic that they included that's really interesting is that alongside a 67% increase in content quality when using AI tool. So think about that. 65% of businesses, they're getting more reach. So you may have heard me talk about this in some of the intros back in the day, depending on how long of a long-time listener that you are or watcher of the channel, even on the main channel. I would always say in the beginning, it's like, this channel is all about helping you simplify the video creation process to help you reach wider and connect deeper with the people that need you the most. I would say that, and a little bit more after that, I would say that because that's the whole point of video. We need to reach a wider and broader audience with our business and our brand, and we need to start reaching deeper. If 65% of businesses are achieving a better SEO result, that means they're able to expand more. They're getting the reach wider using AI. And that alongside of that, if there is a 67% increase in the content quality using AI, that's massive. We're getting reach, we're getting better quality, which means in our customers' mindset, when they see our business and our brand, they're super impressed. They're like, now a new standard has been set. Third point that I love is that the study even found that the majority of consumers actually prefer AI generated copy. This baffles me. And copy is like writing the words that sell. Now, if you're not into copywriting, highly encourage you to do so. Highly encourage you to do so. Whole nother different conversation. I've talked about that on the live stream, but it's a big deal. But copywriting is writing the words that sell. How are you convincing people or educating them to transition them from a visitor of your website into a customer? How are you transitioning them from a viewer into a client? How are we driving more conversations? What are your KPIs? What are the things that you're tracking to start paying attention to these key performance indicators? Or better said, I like to say, what are your income producing activities? What are the things you're doing that's actually generating money? When we talk about your time, talk about the workflow. If you can get better reach because you're using AI, if you can get better quality content because you're using different AI tools, and if you can get people to start engaging more with your stuff because you've integrated into what you're doing in your business, and they're receiving it better, it's a bigger arena that we're now playing in, whether you want to be in it or not. It's just around you at this point. And the faster that we're able to execute, to transition from idea to execution of the idea and shortening that window completely, it's going to be based on the systems. Like I said, I'm so grateful that, like I said, my brain runs on systems and efficiencies, because that's what moves the needle. How fast can we go from idea to execution of idea? Constantly trying to shorten that window, and the systems is what makes that possible. If you don't have competent systems, if you don't have a competent way of creating in order for you to be able to produce, I highly encourage you to check out the content quadrant. That's also in that video planning guide, and it's also in the book. And I've talked about that before, but uber important to start looking at this. And when you put all this stuff together, you can put yourself in a position to really start to future-proof the business. It goes way beyond just making videos. It goes way beyond the quality of the way that it looks or whatever. It goes way beyond that. You could just use your smartphone and still have massive attraction to your business and your brand. But if you can't get organized so that you can scale, and if you can't scale because you're not organized enough for you to bring on people that can work with you, won't quit or leave or whatever because they're like, this sucks. They don't have anything together. Everything's all over the place. I'm tired of, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going to be great. So your business is going to be impacted by AI, whether we want it to be or not, and whether we're ready for it or not. And it is definitely going to go beyond using AI tools to, work with programs or just for editing or for scheduling. It's like right now, the landscape, people are spot picking tools, and that's how they're incorporating AI. It's really time to rethink this whole structure from a fundamental level and really start to reincorporate this into the brand as a whole. Every area of your business, every area of anything that anybody that works for you, that's in the business, whether it's clients that are working with you in what you're doing, or like I said, even your team is working alongside of you to help you accomplish the vision of how you best serve your customers and your clients. Everybody in their own specific role, I talked about this at Social Media Marketing World, everyone in their own specific area and niche in the business, they too also need to be focusing on how can I better improve what I'm doing and using AI, because it's going to be a factor. It's going to speed up the time. And if we're not careful, for some positions, it will replace some of the duties of what they're doing, which means that they now need to scale in their thinking and their execution at a higher level. And if they're not, it won't be long before you're like, this person no longer qualifies for this position based on what I need. They're not trying to improve their skills. They're not trying to do whatever. So it's like, I'm sorry, you got to go. I need to get somebody that can. I've seen it happen. So the thing is, it's like, unfortunately, that's becoming more common. And I've seen a lot of frustration in the market with people upset about all of that. And I get it. It's definitely frustrating for sure. But again, if we are the leaders and the visionaries in our company and our business and our brand, and even if it's just you right now, with you making your content, you like, dang, I didn't think about all this. I was just thinking like, I want to make better videos, make more money, get some brand deals. Maybe if you work a full-time job and you don't want to anymore, you like quit that job. Or maybe you just want to do this because you love it and, you want to pursue a different vision, but you also still love what you're doing in your job. It's fine. It's so many myriad of mixes you can do. However, we all need to start thinking about how we can incorporate this into our business. So just to recap this episode, because I know we went a little bit deeper than I initially thought that I would. And hopefully this is clear in what I'm describing. Feel free to leave a comment or a note. There is a link in the description in the show notes, depending on where you're watching or listening to this at, where you can go to dyna.link/message. And you can leave a voice message there, and you might just get featured in an episode, and we'll cover the topic or the question that you have. But number one is focus on systems, not tools. It's going to be the systems that serve, and simple systems serve. They don't have to be complex, but it needs to be set up in such a way that it can scale moving forward. Because second point, embracing scalability. If you're not growing, you're dying. It's just a reality of business. If you're not growing, you're dying. Because at some point, that stagnation point, maybe just hitting the black. Banking wise, you may be in a red, in a negative, get to black, then get to green. Hovering in the black is not great, because it's very easy to hit that chunk and go down. But just the right amount of effort, the right amount of adjustments for your trajectory can help you start to get above the black. And then number 3, stay agile and experiment, which means staying flexible, being open to change, be open to having your vision adjusted some. And this is an adjustment for people because some people people just lazy. They want to use AI. They don't want to think anymore. It's a lot of misconceptions about this. This is arguably one of the biggest shifts that we've had in a very long time. And I believe it will get to the point to where it's up there with like printing press, internet integration into our life type stuff, where it's like it's a major industry shift. Again, I talked about this, and it was a different talk that I gave. And I was discussing how the iPhone completely disrupted a lot of industries initially, from the music to the organizations, PDAs, all that stuff. Industry disruptor. We now have not an industry disruptor. We have an industry shifter. And it's going to shift and adjust whether we're ready or not. And getting your systems and tools and stuff ready to go is how you do that. But that's where I'm going to leave it for this week's episode. If you love what you heard, make sure you leave a rating or review in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever they want to call it these days, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen. If you you've been listening to these episodes for a while and you never left a review, or it's been a couple years since you left a review, you can leave another one. Okay, leave it. You can leave another one. All right. We appreciate it. It'll help get this show out to more people, and we definitely going to do a much better job of promoting this podcast this year. But that's where I'm going to leave it for this week's episode. And as I love to end all of my episodes, the winds of life blows on us all, but it is how you set your sails. So set your sails accordingly. With that, guys, live with passion. I'll see you on the next episode of the Video Simplified podcast. Take care.